A major car accident nearly cost me my life. There weren't enough ambulances, so medical staff provided basic care while waiting for more help. Exhausted, I called Marcus, who was on vacation, to save me. He coldly said, "Can you stop playing these games to get me to see you? I'm busy." I was sent to the emergency and told there weren't enough doctors. Mercy Hospital called Marcus, urging him to return to assist in the resuscitation. He was currently at his intern's home performing surgery on a dog, and he delayed his return, only coming back to work at the hospital the next day. But I had already been transferred to another city for surgery, barely clinging to life. 3 years later, I returned home to visit Henry, my father who suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. I ran into Marcus at Mercy Hospital. He sneered at me in his lab coat, finally decided to come back. "If you want to marry me, go apologize to Ash first, then I'll consider it." But I was already a mother, a mom to a pair of twins. I no longer needed him to marry me. Learning of Henry's cerebral hemorrhage and hospitalization, I immediately bought a plane ticket back to Willow to visit him. I hadn't expected to run into Marcus at work. He looked radiant and confident in his lab coat, and his name tag proudly displayed head of department on his chest. Seeing me exhausted from travel, he stopped me and said, "Grace, where have you been for the past 2 years? Did you hide away just because I didn't marry you?" It hadn't occurred to me that Marcus had switched hospitals, and it happened to be the one where my dad was admitted. I was in a hurry to see my father and didn't want to get tangled up with him, so I said curtly, "Get out of my way, you're hindering my urgent business." He had never heard me speak to him so sharply. Marcus pulled his hand from his pocket, grabbed my arm, and said in a harsh tone, "I'm talking to you nicely, so why are you still so disrespectful?" His grip on my hand was painful. I glared at him and said, "Are you crazy?" Marcus stared at my reddened hand, paused for a few seconds, then said, "I'm sorry, I." Before he could finish, I walked to the nearby stairs and ascended to the 13th floor inpatient. I saw that Henry had been discovered early and resuscitated in time. He was awake, and his limbs could move, though they were still a bit numb. My heart finally settled, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Margaret had been worried about Henry and hadn't slept for 2 days and a night. I urged her to go home and rest, as I would take over the vigil. At 7 in the evening, as I was about to feed Henry, Marcus appeared at the hospital room door with some fruit. He had taken off his lab coat and was wearing civilian clothes. After setting down the fruit, his gaze fixed on my reddened hand. He took a bottle of liniment from his pocket and said, "Grace, I'm sorry about this morning. I got a little carried away. You should apply this ointment. If you had told me your father was hospitalized in advance, I wouldn't have treated you like that. You always keep your reasons to yourself. It was the same 2 years ago, you just left without a word. Hypocrite." I rolled my eyes and swatted the ointment from his hand. I said, coolly and distantly, "Please don't call me by my nickname. Also, you laid hands on me, that's what happened. What's with all the excuses? I don't accept your apology. Before I lose my temper, take your fruit and leave." Marcus saw that I was being unreasonable. The neighboring patient was giving him strange looks, and his face darkened. His phone rang at that moment, and his tone immediately softened as he answered. "Fido threw up again? I'll be right back to take him to the vet. You." He walked out of the hospital room, speaking frantically into his phone, his voice fading until I couldn't hear what he was saying. Fido was Ashley's pet dog. 2 years ago, I was in a car accident. Because so many injured people were unconscious, the ambulance transported only those with severe injuries. I, who was still conscious, had to wait for the next trip. But at the time, my internal organs felt shattered, and I felt so dizzy, like I could die any second. The fear of death made me call Marcus. He was still on vacation then, and I wanted him to save me. But when he answered my call, he thought I was being unreasonable, fabricating a car accident just to make him come see me, and he refused my plea for help. Later, I only found out through Ashley's social media posts. During the time I was in the car accident, Marcus was performing orthopedic surgery on her pet dog, Fido. In his eyes, his intern's dog was more important than his actual girlfriend. Alexander and I took turns watching over Henry. I took one day, Margaret took the next. When I went to relieve Margaret, I saw Ashley, dressed in a lab coat, sitting by Henry's bed, chatting and laughing. Seeing Spore bag was almost empty, she volunteered, saying, "Mr. Henry, just a moment, I'll go get the medication solution to replace it for you." Henry and Margaret smiled and said, "Okay, thank you, doctor." Ashley turned and saw me standing at the door, and her face fell. She stuck out her tongue with a smile and said, "Grace, dear, I heard you were back, so I came to see you all." I didn't speak. With a grim face, I set down the insulated lunchbox. Margaret said to me, "Child, how could you be so rude? The doctor is so friendly. She came here to chat with us in her busy schedule and even encouraged your father to get up and walk around more. How can you be so sullen towards her?" I pouted, not wanting to argue with my parents. I smiled and said, "Yes, yes, Mom, you're absolutely right. Let's not talk about that for now. Come and try the chicken soup I made myself. It's from a free-range chicken I managed to get, very nourishing." At that moment, Ashley came in with the medication solution. Just as she was about to connect it, I stopped her. Ashley said, her voice tinged with feigned distress, "What's wrong, Grace, dear?" "I'm changing Uncle's medication solution. If you keep holding me, the blood will flow back." I snatched the liquid from her hand, pointed at the name on it, and said, "If you can't handle a nurse's duties, then don't do them. Look at the name on this. Is that my dad's name and bed number? You just changed the medication without double-checking?" Ashley glanced at it, her face turning pale, her voice catching in her throat. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to change Uncle's medication quickly." Her crying in a lab coat made it look like I was bullying her to anyone who didn't know better. My parents, who had just been defending Ashley, were now silent. After all, a medication error like that is unacceptable to anyone. Even the neighboring patient muttered a few complaints, which made Ashley couldn't stop crying hysterically. She bowed deeply to me and apologized. Grace, dear, I'm so sorry. I didn't know my good intentions would almost lead to such a big mistake. It's all my fault." At that moment, a furious roar came from the doorway. "What are you doing?" The next second, Marcus shoved me hard, my side hitting the bed rail. The car accident had cost me my spleen and caused multiple fractures, and I now had metal plates installed in my body. That recent impact hit my injured area, made me break out in a cold sweat, my vision blurring with stars. Marcus, holding Ashley, yelled at me, "Grace, whatever issues or grudges you have, you can take them out on me, but you absolutely cannot bully Ash. She's just a resident doctor. As patients, can't you show a little more understanding? If you keep bullying young doctors like this, who will dare to treat you in the future?" Ashley, looking utterly distraught, buried her face in Marcus's chest, sobbing, "Marcus, darling, I'm fine. Since no one likes me as a doctor, I guess I should just resign from the department. I'll talk to the head of department." Marcus furiously ordered me, "Grace, apologize to me. You made Ash cry." This despicable couple actually treated the workplace like a playground, and now they were doing this to me, completely disregarding my parents. Now, his favoritism towards Ashley no longer mattered to me, my heart wouldn't ache anymore. Why should I apologize? I went straight to the doctor's lounge to file a complaint against Ashley for being negligent in her work, failing to check things thoroughly, and crying hysterically in front of us patients. Coincidentally, a Mercy Hospital administrator came down for inspection and discovered my complaint. He immediately sent Ashley home to reflect and write a formal written apology, prohibiting her from coming to work during this period. Even, the hospital's top surgeon, was called in for a discussion by Dr. Miller. In the evening, Alexander told me he had arrived with the twins. I told him not to bring the kids over yet, but to rest first, then visit their grandparents. Alexander replied, "Yes, yes, whatever my wife says. But I'm passing by your Mercy Hospital to buy snacks for B, so can you come down for a hug? I miss my wife after a few days apart." That guy couldn't lie straight. Mercy Hospital was nowhere near where they lived, it wasn't on the way at all. But I missed him a little too. While waiting for Alexander downstairs, I saw him get out of the car. I excitedly rushed over and threw myself into his arms. Breathing in the scent of his fresh shower gel, I felt much more at ease. I whispered into his ear, "Alexander, I miss you too. I miss you too, sweetheart. You've worked so hard. Bo and B are asleep, and I need to get back. If they don't see me, they'll probably start crying again, and the nanny can't handle them alone." That brief moment of warmth dissipated much of the day's frustration. I said goodbye to Alexander, standing by the road watching his car drive away until its taillights disappeared from view. Then I picked up the savory crepe he'd bought me, ready to eat. Suddenly, someone appeared behind me, startling me so much that the savory crepe fell from my mouth. He tapped my shoulder. "Who was that person? Why were you smiling at him?" Marcus questioned me with a dark, brooding expression, his tone brooked no argument. As he spoke, his fingers on my shoulder tightened relentlessly. It hurt. I jabbed the skewer I was holding firmly into his arm and cursed, "Let go. You're hurting me." Marcus flinched in pain but didn't release me, instead pressing closer. He pushed me against the flower bed, forcing me to sit on the tiled ledge. I tried to stand and leave, but Marcus held me down, pressing his questions. You still haven't answered my question. Who was that man, and what exactly is your relationship with him? I found his behavior baffling. He loved Ashley, yet he was so interested in my private life. Not wanting to get further entangled, I answered truthfully, he's my husband, the man on my marriage certificate, my legal spouse. I've answered you, can you let go now? But my answer only made Marcus's reaction more aggressive. He gripped my chin, forcing me to look him directly in the eyes. Grace, you don't need to resort to such tactics just to force me to marry you. Don't think I don't know you deliberately brought your sick father to the Mercy Hospital where I work, and then intentionally let me catch you being intimate with another man when I got off. Honestly, I'm feeling agitated and frustrated. If you want me to marry you, all you have to do is agree to one condition, and we'll get married right away. You go apologize to Ash, and withdraw the complaint you filed against her. Do you know that because of your complaint, she might lose her job now? Around and around we go, always back to Ash. 2 years ago, I was indeed eager to get married because I was already over 30. If I didn't get married and have children soon, it might become difficult for me to conceive. And I really wanted Hildren loved children, but Marcus kept dragging his feet, always using the excuse that his career hadn't taken off yet, telling me to wait. But I had already waited 7 years for him, from his residency to starting his career. A sneer touched my lips. My eyes swept over Marcus. He was no longer as handsome as he once was. Instead, he had acquired a few wrinkles and dark circles under his eyes. I said, Marcus, when did I ever beg you to marry me? If you want to get married, go find your student Ashley, she'd probably be more than willing to marry you. The man couldn't believe I would say such a thing, and he gritted his teeth as he spoke. Grace, do you have any idea what you're saying? Suddenly, a surprised female voice came from behind us. Marcus, what are you two doing? Hearing's voice, Marcus sprang away from me as if on a trampoline, even putting a meter of distance between us, afraid of being associated with me and causing Ashley to misunderstand. I snorted and rolled my eyes. He said softly to Ashley, it's nothing, just Grace still bothering me. Good thing you came. Didn't you say you wanted to try on wedding dresses? I'll take you tomorrow. As he spoke, he deliberately glanced at my face, trying to find some reaction, but unfortunately, there was none. As if to get back at me, he uploaded photos of himself with Ashley trying on wedding dresses to social media posts, and also appeared in Ashley's shared posts. As I passed the nurse's station, I overheard them discussing, did you see? Dr. Marcus from surgery went wedding dress shopping with Ash. They're not actually getting married, are they? Isn't that bound to happen sooner or later? Everyone in Mercy Hospital knows about their relationship, there just hasn't been any movement for 2 years. I guess they feel the time is right now. Whether they got married or not was irrelevant to me, it wasn't my business. Alexander told me Bo and B would be visiting Grandpa in the afternoon. I waited for M in the hospital room beforehand. After NB arrived, the entire hospital room was filled with joyful laughter. My parents' worried frowns eased considerably upon seeing their 2 little grandchildren. In the afternoon, I was changing BEA's diaper when a bright voice came from the doorway. Wow, whose children are these? They're so cute and sweet. Hearing's voice, I impatiently turned my head. My gaze fell upon Marcus's gloomy face. I ignored him, walked over and took the child back from Ashley's arms, and smiled and said to her, these are my children. It's not convenient for you to hold them while wearing a lab coat. I cast a smiling glance at Ashley, surprised that she was back at work after only a few hours. It seemed she had quite the strong backing. In a corner unnoticed by anyone, when Marcus heard me say the children were mine, his body swayed, and he nearly fell. Panic began to stir within him, and he didn't even notice the look of bewilderment on his own face. He said, refusing to give up, where did you adopt these twins from? I always knew you liked raising children, but I didn't expect you to adopt 2 at once. As soon as he spoke, I and those around me looked at him with strange eyes. Finally, Margaret answered for me, her voice tinged with warmth and anger. How can you speak that way about my grandchildren, child? These 2 children were carried by my daughter for 10 months, faced a life-threatening ordeal, and were C-section delivered. Who just comes right out and says the children aren't hers? The neighboring patient adored my 2 children. We had just been discussing my C-section delivery of the 2 children. When discussing scars, I even told the neighboring patient what kind of ointment to use for scar removal, because she was also a mom who had a C-section. So, when she heard Marcus say that, she spoke up for me, a little angrily, you 2 always bring trouble whenever you come. You don't even seem to be assigned to our hospital room. Why are you always bullying this young woman? Are you so idle at work? Ashley, chastised, began to play her feigned innocence act again. Marcus, darling, I just wanted to come over and apologize, but look at them. To everyone's surprise, Marcus yelled at me, Grace, when did I ever give you permission to have twins? Why did you just go and have my children without letting me know? Now the children are here, and you won't let me acknowledge them. What gives you the right? You kept these children from their father for 2 years, depriving them of paternal love. This is tragic for their childhood. What kind of mother are you? I stared at Marcus, somewhat taken aback, wondering what on earth was going through his mind. I scoffed, Marcus, if I'm not mistaken, you hadn't touched me for 6 months before my car accident. So, where would your children come from? Marcus froze, then asked, car accident? What car accident? It seemed he had completely forgotten about the incident. I said, my face cold, on the day you were performing orthopedic surgery on Ashley's pet dog, I was in a major car accident that nearly cost me my life. If you had rushed to my aid when I called you then, I wouldn't have lost my spleen and kidney. If hospital had called you back, and you hadn't made excuses and had arrived at the Mercy Hospital sooner, I wouldn't have been in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights, eventually suffering cardiac arrest. I was transferred to another hospital for resuscitation and was saved, my life only preserved after 3 blood transfusions. Henry, upon hearing this, sat up excitedly and said, Daughter, is this the unfaithful ex-boyfriend you told me about? Back then, when Marcus and I were together, we hadn't reached the point of definite marriage, so I hadn't let my parents know who he was, only that I had a boyfriend. Now, realizing it was Marcus standing right in front of them, my usually cheerful parents' faces turned grim. Margaret even chased the 2 of them out of the hospital room. We don't welcome either of you. You're not my husband's attending physicians, and we need to rest. Don't disturb us. That very day, we completed the discharge papers. With an Ashley there, staying felt truly unbearable. Later, the neighboring patient told me that after we were discharged, Marcus returned. Upon learning of our discharge, he caused a huge scene in the hospital room, grabbing a nurse and demanding to know why we had been discharged. He stood in the hallway, calling my phone number again and again, ignoring everyone's stares, but I had changed my phone number after leaving. Alexander was also a surgeon, but his medical ethics and skills were vastly superior to Marcus's. My life was also saved by Alexander. Many hospital executives, knowing Alexander had returned to this area, invited him to collaborate on research and development as soon as he landed. In the first few days, Alexander was reluctant to accept, wanting to spend time with the children, but eventually, he had to make an appearance. This meant that the children and I had to stay a few extra days. Henry was doing well now, able to walk normally, and Margaret took him for walks every day. And having Henry watch the children helped him momentarily forget about his illness, lifting his spirits considerably. So, I left the children with my parents to look after, with the nanny assisting. Today was Alexander's day to give a lecture at Mercy Hospital, so I went along to watch as an audience member. Watching him shine on stage, I felt a surge of pride. He even winked at me during a pause for breath. This made everyone around me smile and look at me, making me feel a little shy. But inwardly, I felt incredibly happy. Alexander gave me a strong sense of security. Unlike when I was with Marcus, whenever he worked overtime, if I wanted to visit him at work, he would never allow me to show up at his workplace. But was different. Among the interns he supervised at time, Ashley was the most special. He never let Ashley touch any strenuous or difficult tasks, assigning them to the other interns, while all the easy ones went to Ashley. I caught him doing this several times, and when I made a scene, Marcus would scold me repeatedly. He called me jealous and a disgrace. But was different, he would introduce me to everyone around him. Whether we were alone or out in public, he would praise me as a remarkable mother and wife. He gave me a sense of affirmation, making me feel purposeful. Just as I was intently listening to Alexander's lecture, urgent footsteps sounded from the doorway. A doctor in a lab coat spoke to Dr. Miller, who was standing in front of me. Dr. Miller, we have a serious open trauma patient in the emergency. We can't find the bleeding source, and the blood bank is running low. Dr. Marcus can't handle it. If we delay any longer, the patient might not make it. This patient has a special status, they are important to higher-ups and must survive. Dr. Miller quickly made a decision, stepping up to interrupt Alexander's lecture and asked him to help resuscitate the patient. Alexander and I went together and saw all the department heads in Mercy Hospital were there, initiating a full-scale resuscitation protocol. When was wheeled out, his surgical scrubs soaked in blood, he saw Alexander and me standing before him. He suddenly burst into a furious questioning of Dr. Miller. I already said we couldn't resuscitate him. Do you really think this outsider from another hospital can save a dying patient? Ashley, her eyes welling up with tears, quickly added, that's right, Dr. Miller. Marcus is one of the top surgeons in the department, even the entire city. His surgical skills are first-rate, no one performs better than him. Who is this person whose name we don't even know? How can you suddenly let him be the lead surgeon? Who will take responsibility if something goes wrong? Dr. Miller glared, then said, since when Oh yes, a resident get to question my decisions? Ashley was so frightened she dared not speak again. Alexander knew where Marcus's animosity towards him stemmed from, but he also harbored resentment towards Marcus. As for Ashley's questioning, Alexander simply ignored it. In the face of life and death, everything else was trivial. He quickly put on his surgical scrubs without another word. He only tossed one remark at Marcus, don't think you're so extraordinary every single day. There's always someone better, and beyond that mountain are even more people more skilled than you. Just because you can't do something doesn't mean no one else can. With that, I watched Alexander enter the operating, and everyone else followed, including Marcus. 5 hours later, I finally saw them emerge from the operation. My eyes immediately found Alexander. I walked up to him, and he leaned into my shoulder, saying tiredly, only my wife's embrace has such power. Aline is all it takes to revive my spirits, no matter how tired I am. I gently patted his shoulder. Dr. Miller walked up, smiling, and said, it's a good thing Dr. Alexander was here today, otherwise, this surgery would have been incredibly difficult. It's a miracle you found such a hard-to-locate bleeding source. You're truly young and promising, young and promising. I noticed Marcus standing not far away, his face dark, emanating a palpable sense of defeat, but I also saw the unwillingness in his eyes. When started his residency after medical school, his supervising mentor discovered his hands were incredibly steady, making him an excellent surgeon. Even his teachers praised the surgeries he performed back then. They all praised his potential, which led him to believe he was unique and irreplaceable. In his years at Mercy Hospital, he successfully performed countless difficult surgeries for complex cases. That's why he had the audacity to procrastinate when Mercy Hospital called him back for surgery. But 3 years had said, and his skills were still stagnant, having made no progress. Society was developing rapidly now. Various high technologies had transformed traditional techniques, helping us find the root causes of patients' conditions more quickly. And this time, Alexander's ability to locate the bleeding source so quickly wasn't just due to his skill, it was also thanks to his self-developed reflection system, which could rapidly pinpoint dynamic origins. Marcus's arrogance, particularly when he essentially declared patients beyond saving, caused many of his colleagues to look down on him. People often gossiped behind one's back, so typical of his youthful arrogance. The patient still had a breath, and he declared them unsalvageable. If your skills aren't up to par, don't pretend they are. I found him irritating for a long time anyway. So what if he has steady hands and good technique? There are countless people far more capable than him. I think this time, Marcus's legend comes to an end. As doctors, the most important thing is that as long as a patient still has a breath, we must fight death for a patient's life. How can he not even understand that basic principle? I heard that Dr. Alexander's wife is Marcus's ex-girlfriend. 3 years ago, she was in a car accident and called Dr. Marcus for help, but he preferred to perform surgery on our resident Ashley's pet dog rather than save his girlfriend. His character wasn't very good from the start. Marcus and Ashley's reputations at Mercy Hospital had now begun to sour. Ashley's supervising mentor marked her residency as unsatisfactory, forcing her to withdraw from the department. For years, Ashley, relying on her title as Marcus's rumored girlfriend, had slacked off in various departments, doing nothing but slacking off during work hours and leaving right on time, and still expected to be given the outstanding title at the end of her residency. This had filled many of her fellow residents with continuous anger. They dared not speak out. This time, when Marcus got into trouble, they all submitted their complaints, and the opportunistic supervising mentor immediately became fair and impartial. Alexander developed this tracking system because when I had my car accident years ago, I had a severe hemorrhage that he almost couldn't locate. He only found it by persistently searching. Later, when I had my C-section delivery for the twins, I also experienced another major hemorrhage. Alexander started researching technology after that, a technique to locate bleeding points. And during this time, head of departments of surgery from major hospitals were all consulting with Alexander about this technology, hoping to introduce it into their own operating board. I took the twins out for a stroll and ran into Marcus. He had a full beard, bloodshot eyes, and chapped lips, looking as if he hadn't slept in days. I frowned and pushed the stroller around him. He grabbed the stroller frame. I said, "What do you want? Say what you have to say, and don't lay your hands on me." Marcus said, his voice hoarse, "Grace, you win. I agree to marry you. We can get married today. Your objective has been achieved, you've made me compromise." I shook off his hand and cursed, "Are you crazy? I'm a married woman with children. When did I ever say I wanted to marry you? Have you lost your mind?" To my surprise, Marcus exploded in rage, shoved the stroller aside, grabbed my shoulders, and tried to force a kiss on me. "Why not get married? Didn't you beg me to marry you back then? I told you to wait. Why didn't you wait for me? Now the time has come, and what right do you have to stand by another man, and bring children to bother me, ruining my career? Now I've agreed to marry you, so don't you dare refuse me." The two children were so frightened they cried continuously. In a moment of desperation, I twisted Marcus's ear, making him yelp in pain. Then I punched him on the bridge of his nose, saying coldly, "If you act out again, I'll send you to a mental hospital." Ignoring the blood flowing from his nose, he knelt before me, tears streaming down his face, begging, "Grace, I truly love you. Please don't reject me, okay? Do you know how much it hurt me to see you embracing another man? How jealous I was to see you smiling at those two children? Why are you punishing me? I know hanging up on you back then was my fault, my mistake. It was all Ashley, she seduced me. I'll cut ties with her and be with you. Can't you also cut ties with those irrelevant people, and let's start over?" He took out a diamond ring from his pocket and said, "Grace, our English names are engraved on these rings. I'm proposing to you today, and you can't refuse. I've already booked the wedding dress for you to try on right now, and the wedding venue is also reserved and ready for use." I walked around him, holding the two children to comfort them. Marcus suddenly flew into a rage, yelling frantically, "Why are you ignoring me? I told you to marry me, didn't you hear?" I tried to leave with the children, but Marcus crudely snatched them from my arms. I was afraid the children would fall, so I reluctantly let go. My voice softened as I said, "Marcus, please calm down. I'll agree to whatever you want, just don't hurt the children." My entire heart was in my throat, concerned for the children. I didn't know if Marcus's next move would harm the children. Tears welled up in my eyes from distress. The man began to grin foolishly, holding the children, and said, "Ha ha. What conditions? Then let's go get married at the county's office right now, immediately." I agreed without hesitation, okay, I'll go with you, just don't hurt the children." The two children's crying grew louder and louder. I tried to take them, but Marcus wouldn't let me. We got into a taxi. Upon arriving at the county's office, the staff member told Marcus, "Sir, I'm sorry, this woman is married. She can only get a marriage certificate with you after she brings her husband to file for divorce." At that moment, Marcus still couldn't believe I was married, but the facts were undeniable. Pain flashed across his face as he questioned me, "Grace, are you really married, or are you just tricking me?" I didn't dare speak recklessly, the children were still in his arms. I tried to calm Marcus down, and the staff member also stepped in to help. Fortunately, I had asked the taxi driver to call 911 for us while we were in the car. While was still raving, the police swiftly restrained Marcus, snatched the children from his grasp, and handed them to me. When I touched the children, my heart nearly broke. Both of them had bruises from being held too tightly. I told the police, "This man kidnapped my children and caused both them and me emotional distress. I will not accept mediation." Marcus was detained for 10 days. After learned about these recent events, he publicly stated that if Marcus wasn't severely punished, he would cease all cooperation with Mercy Hospital. After was released, he was fired by Mercy Hospital, and his medical license was revoked due to past malpractice coming to light. Alexander and I took our parents and left Willow to settle and work in another state. Later, I heard Ashley was arrested. She had gone to work as a plastic surgeon at an unlicensed clinic. Due to malpractice, a patient died on the operating table during a procedure. She didn't immediately send the patient for resuscitation. Instead, she dropped her scalpel and fled the operating. By the time the family found the patient, they were a cold corpse. To seek justice for the deceased patient, the family sued the plastic surgery clinic and reported Ashley to the police. Finally, Ashley was found at Marcus's doorstep. At the time, she was begging Marcus to save her. Marcus pretended to figure things out for her but had actually called the police. He said, "It's all because of you that Grace left me forever. You deserve to die." Ashley was furious. "Do you think you're so deeply affectionate? Don't think I don't know you're greedy and wants to have it all, enjoying my company while still reluctant to let go of your beloved. You're the one who pushed her away. What does that have to do with me?" Hearing the sirens, Ashley realized Marcus had called the police. She desperately picked up a stone from the doorway and, before Marcus could react, violently smashed it into his groin area several times. Marcus collapsed to the ground in agony, accompanied by a sickening crunching sound. Although was rushed to Mercy Hospital by the police, unfortunately, he sustained irreversible damage to his virility. He would never be able to perform sexually again. Ashley was sentenced to life imprisonment. After follow-up examination showed no risk of recurrence, he started to quit smoking and drinking, refusing all social drinking events. He began a leisurely life taking care of the kids and grocery shopping, and only then did my heart finally feel at ease. Marcus's epilogue. I couldn't accept the fact that I was no longer virile. Grace and I had clearly planned to have children together in the future. But at the time, my career was at the peak of his career. Dr. Miller told me if I worked hard for a few more years, I could get a promotion and a raise. But always bothered me at times like these, constantly bringing up marriage and having children. I also wanted to have children and marry her, but I still prioritized my career, so to punish her, I allowed the intern to get close to me. Every time she appeared, I knew she was doing it on purpose. I just wanted to annoy Grace, to show her how sought after I was, so she wouldn't push me so hard and risk me leaving. I wanted her to settle down and wait patiently for me. Later, she did quiet down for a while, and I was pleased. I planned to discuss marriage with her after some time, but I never expected that phone call was real. She really was in a car accident. At the time, I didn't know she'd been in a car accident. She just suddenly disappeared, and I couldn't reach her by phone. I thought she was angry and had run away from home. Since I didn't look for her, I kept betting in my mind that she would come back on her own. 3 years later, I was headhunted by a major hospital. They offered me the head of department position. My career was successful, and I was ready to get married and start a family. I saw Grace. But she ignored me, had a terrible attitude, and there was another man and a pair of twins by her side. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you liked this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your views, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.